You can be sitting down for the whole thing.
Okay, cool.
Oh my god, I love it.
I'm not asking you guys to
Ready to go.
Damn, you actually handwrite this.
You know what it was? I only printed one, one of the poems at work. I was like, oh yeah, I'll do it next time. Then realised I work from home on Mondays. I was like, right, so we're going to have to handwrite this.
Do it based on memory as well, like.
Literally, because I was like, if I have to try to remember all that, it's just not going to happen.
If my handwriting was that neat, I would handwrite and just like have that kind of element. Like mine is just like so chaotic. Like,
I know what you mean.
it's because it means no one can like copy my stuff. So, yeah.
I was about to say original plagiarism proofing. Like no one can see it. They also
that's
say
it.
the messier your handwriting, the smarter you are, which is why doctors have really messy handwriting.
I like this.
Yeah.
I like you already.
Do you want to do
Perfect.
3, 2, 1.
You go.
I go first.
So yeah, they'll take turns and then we'll discuss after each reading.
Hi people. Hi. Like, my name's George and I'm an alcoholic. Yeah, like, one, I want to say thank you for Meta to setting this up as well. Like, I think having like an intimate night where people can actually share it and then, like, this is really, really intimate. Like, I like it. I've been doing poetry for like 7 years and I've never been in a setting like this. I'm always one of these people I avoid like writers' rooms or anything like that, like, because I don't want people to steal my ideas. I'm joking. But yeah, what I'm gonna do, like the poems I'm actually gonna do tonight is like ones that people haven't never heard before, and it's more of like a storytelling, because normally I'm like a lyrical poet. I just get up there and I'm like, ba-da, 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 da, da, da. But I kind of wanted to do something a little bit different tonight, where this piece I'm doing right now is something that I stopped writing, because it was like the first part of 4 parts that I had in mind. But you know what we're like as writers, fucking hell, we can write for days. We have a great idea, we're like, nah, and then just shelter away from it. But yeah, this is one part of a poem called London Weekend. Bound home on the 24 bus towards Central after bunking off the tension again. This is when I start to zone into the weekend. It's about to get mental. Listening to Kiss on the radio, living it up with Ja Rule at school. I've given up. There've been too many calls from the principal. Dad was livid, but he was a self-righteous critic. He said if they call me again, he will reach his limit and wage a campaign against me to never see daylight again, and he made that vision explicitly vivid. So I originally moved into my bedroom and paid my savings a visit. Gold coins hidden in my speaker, because if he didn't do that, my father's lodger would steal it. And there's a bang in the next room. Fuck, is he home early? Did he hear me come in? I freeze and I pivot. Do I announce my row? Be like, yo, Dad, you know the thing that you basically told me not to do this morning? Well, I literally just did it. Or do I wait until he heads to the bathroom? Or do I wait till he heads to the bathroom and dash for the door? Come back out after an hour and then negotiate a score, which he would drop to a Benz and he would say, go to the shop with some cigs, with the money he gave me, leaving me with a $5 and a cigarette, which I'll steal from his packet later. I think you know what I chose. But I hid under that bed for a fucking hour before I made the break. But he was only taking the piss, so it really raised the stakes. And I forgot to tie my laces, so it jeopardized my fate. So I glided to the door, unlocked the front door, and put my keys on the other side to prevent the latch from baiting me out. Finally, on the other side of the door, I'm safe, and I breathe. But then I feel this overwhelming. I turn around, and it's a woman my father used to see. But it's fine. But I'm pissed off because that means someone let her into the building. She probably told him that she's visiting friends at flat 3 and the buzzer's not working. So could you be so kind and let me in, please? She tried the same line on me, but I've been fooled by her trickery. So I leave her banging on the door in love's desperation. But yeah, that's first part of it, but yeah.
Anyone got any questions? I got some Ja Rule references there.
Oh, hell yeah.
I remember you saying that Ja Rule was pretty much one of your first experiences in trying to like consuming hip hop and rap and stuff?
Yes, I've learned a lot since then. But yeah.
I mean, Veni Veti Veci is
I mean,
still
Last
a good
Temptation
Ja
was
Rule
a great
album.
album. With like, if
Yeah.
that was your introduction to like hip hop,
Tupac knockoff, I thought. Anyway, so.
I didn't understand Tupac at the time. No, but you're right. Like just same cadence, same voice, and everything like that.
No, I mean, yeah, the album before that, Veni Veti Veci, is still good. Yeah, I just wanted to just say, like, where does Ja Rule sit with you now? Like,
I mean, the same way he sits with 50 Cent, I guess. Like,
okay.
yeah, separate. Like, I mean, don't worry. Like, Always on Time is a banger. Like, he had some good R&B influences and stuff. But I think like it's because it was like listening to Kiss on the radio. You know, that's something that when we were listening to music growing up in London, and that was just the source of everything. You know, especially with music and everything. But yeah.
How old was George in that moment?
Oh, nice. All right. So I'm gonna because the whole point of it, because the whole concept of the poem was like to make it seem like I was 15, and I'm doing all of these adult things when really I was 12 years old. So that was like the twist when you get through the poem, and I'm doing all of these adult things because it's kind of based on like Patti Smith Kids, which is a really incredible book that she wrote. And a lot of that stuff I actually really related to growing up. Because she's a great writer, and it's that kind of like twist at the end when you think everything's like, a late teenager, but it's actually a kid. And it's autobiographical as well, so it's like the true aspect towards it. Yeah, because I was like the ratty kid on the estate, like, don't know how the fuck I ended up at uni, but yeah.
I've heard you perform on like open mic nights, and I've seen that kind of literature that you've produced. I've seen you perform like this for the first time in terms of this kind of craft. What was the process going into it? Like how, when you were dipping into it, can you share a little bit about how you were feeling when you were crafting this piece? And second part is, how different is it to the experience of like the style of writing you may have done before comparison? Because you said you've done this before as well.
I mean, to be honest, this felt easier in a way because like the way I write, I tend to try to like, I write in patterns lyrically, so I'm always thinking about cadence, I'm thinking about alliteration, but also not trying to be too obvious about alliteration and the punchline towards the end of it. But in my soul, like when I was a kid, I was like a playwright and stuff. So like for me, it's more easier to write something that's structured as a story, but then just add in a rhyme at the end of it, just to give it that kind of like bounce and flow through the whole thing. So when it came down to writing, it was like probably one of the easiest things I wrote because it's, yeah.
Yeah, no, basically, this is like everyone else has said, it's quite different to the style that we used to hear and you do on an open mic. Poems like this, is this like you're sharing stuff because this is the kind of platform that's right for that? Or are we actually going to start seeing this added to your repertoire as you go into stage where it's, I guess, the style, because it's still storytelling, just like some of the other poems that you've got, but it's gentler, I think, in delivery.
No, I do want to perform more stuff like that because I feel like there's a kind of a disassociation sometimes with poetry where there is lyricism involved, where you kind of, like for me, I love lyrical poets to death because I'm just like bar, like that kind of like energy that you get towards it. But sometimes me as a person who's a lover of it, I kind of want to know the person behind it. What is the context of why do you write about what you write about? Because I think that's kind of sometimes more interesting.
Yeah.
Because then it gives it more credit, it gives it more credentials.
Yeah.
For you to accept that person as a poet and, the different styles that they basically have. So I think it's more, for me, like personally, I do want to perform more truthful stories, stuff that like I've experienced in my life and maybe someone else experienced it,
Yeah.
Because it's good to people to relate to a reference, but I feel like sometimes the soul gets removed from that. And I feel like when I first started doing poetry, I wrote lyrically in order to create a separation where like I kind of want to bring people in. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's easily the most vulnerable piece I've heard from you. And
get ready for the next ones, baby.
and someone who, we're friends, we talk sort of outside of poetry. I could definitely, hearing that, I'm like, that's the George I know, sort of privately. So that was quite nice to hear that. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, man.
This is going off of what you guys were talking about. So what you were saying about how kind of hearing the context around the poem can really inform
the poem for you. And I remember you saying once that the preamble makes the poet. And I was thinking, how would that translate in page poetry? Would you say that the commentaries, like some poetry books have commentaries, and I've always thought, how impactful are they? And I wanted to just get your opinion on, do you feel like with what you were saying that the context helps, make the poem more impactful for you? Do you feel like commentaries in page poetry and like in poetry books are something that's overlooked? Or, is that something, a resource that we should tap into as poets? It's just something I'm personally interested in.
Yeah, because you think about like Calafemi, who I think he's a master at providing commentary, within his poetry, an absolute master at it, because he gives you the context, but also can rip you apart within that. But you also know the context of where he's coming from in that particular thing, especially with his new book, Wicked, which is the context is a house party, and you have a day hour by hour, which is, I think within page poetry, it could be gifted a lot more. But also like my favorite page poet is Bobby Parker, who I think is a phenomenal poet, and he's properly slept on. And I think within the page poetry, you can have the context.
Okay.
Because you can write certain things that gives a little nugget of that person, which I think is where I want my writing to go, basically, where it's just you could feel more of a soul towards it, basically. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Obviously, you're in a setting that, am I right? You haven't been in one of these settings before.
No. Yeah.
Okay. So performing that, well, not performing it, but reading it from your phone, and almost like page poetry in that essence, did you feel an element of George the 12-year-old or 15-year-old being quite vulnerable?
Oh, hell yeah. Because I'm dyslexic as well, and trying to read, that's why I memorize my poems when I go up on the stage, because I struggle with reading at the same time, but also doing the performance, hence why I remember my poems to perform it. But it's nice in terms of what you say, in terms of bringing it back into that kind of vulnerability. It isn't like you're in school where you're like, oh my God, everyone's, but it's more safer in a way, which is kind of nicer, yeah.
So do you think there's an element, second question off of the back of that, do you feel like there's an element of that vulnerability missing in some poetry, in some performance poetry?
Yeah, I think there is. I think within performance poetry there is, because I've seen a lot, I've run events as well, and it's just the stuff I gravitate towards now is that vulnerability, that kind of moment, not necessarily being a great performer, but it's also that kind of nuance of being okay to be okay, cool, I'm going to take a breath, and then I'm going to reveal something. It's kind of nicer because it makes someone a lot more human. Because a lot of performers, even I've rehearsed all of my shit to the point that every single line is perfect. But then sometimes it is that kind of thing where page poets are more prolific writers because they keep writing. Where performance poetry, they will just remember that one poem and they try to get that one poem right, and they want to think about the lines in between. They want to think about the emphasis on this point. They want to basically, and it becomes more of a projection of their own, what they want themselves to be. And I'm just speaking on my own behalf as well.
It's beautiful to hear you say that, though.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, coming from being a page poet and someone who's trying to think about performance, hearing someone who's a performance poet talking about page poetry in a beautiful way, that's really, really lovely to hear. I love
page poetry, man. Page poetry is, I think if you're a performance poet, you should read page poetry. That should be, you can't just rely on hip hop. You can rely on some other, you have to rely on reading. The whole point of, me, and I think all of us as poets, we have our favorite poets that we enjoy reading. And that's where it comes down to begin with. That's the source of anything. Even when we were kids, when we were learning it in English classes, it's, for me, I was fucking delinquent. So all of us probably heard that one teacher that inspired us to be oh my God. For example, Caroline Duffy, my teacher did this one line, I remember in Miss Simmons, and I was disinterested at school, and she turned around and said, this one line, which is diving for pearls, and she went, do you know what that means? I went, no. She went, it's going down on a woman. I was just and I was just so surprised. I went, wow, you can do that with words? You can give, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah, but it's...
Caroline Duffy sales are just going to let go.
No, but she's a great writer, but it's that kind of thing where it's just it's so bare and it's so naked, you know what I mean?
But that's in schools, and we used to teach Benjamin Stephanopoulos, and children History Month, it became very popular around 1 month to actually have Benjamin Zephaniah be a part of it, and they'd recite and learn his poetry. But it was such a beautiful creative experience for a lot of those young people that never had the opportunity to read that poetry or to actually experience what he was trying to say about the world. So it is important, so thank you.
No, thank you for the question, because I think it's an important question to ask in poetry. Yeah.
I'm Marley. Also, that was such a pleasure to hear. That was amazing. Your piece was beautiful. But yeah, I'm Marley. I'm really excited to be here. Thank you, Meta, as well, for the space and all of you guys and your ears on a Monday evening. But yeah, I guess my stance on poetry. Oh, everything you're going to hear today is from a pamphlet I'm writing. And I thought it was actually really interesting what you were saying. I'm really excited to see how us reading together goes. Because this is all about being like, very, very vulnerable, like a lot of introspection in a lot of this stuff. And like facing the harder parts of yourself is what I'm currently really in my bag in writing. Yeah, that's kind of it. I was like, is there anything else to say? I think that's fine, we'll get into it. This one is called Phlegm. And I don't know. Yeah, I'll say a little bit before. I think it's basically about perfectionism, and I feel like that is a concept and an experience and a word I'm like really learning a lot about at the moment and enjoying that journey and how it kind of shows up with myself and like even in my own writing, but like every facet of my life really. But yeah, and this is about it being hard. But yeah, so it's called Phlegm. This cough won't drop no matter how much my lungs try to kick it out, and I'm pretty sure I picked it up at school age, ages ago now, not the way you might think. It wasn't the grubby little kids and how they played freely in the dirt. It was the opposite. I washed my hands too often. Spent years trying to get everything right, sanitizing dirty thoughts and putting my hand over my mouth when my feelings were hurt, and kept 2 meters from anything that was second best. I was perfect. At least that's what the stickers said, but now my immune system is shit, no surprise there. And this heavy thing on my chest, it just lingers here, and fuck me if I tell someone they've upset me, or fuck me, they tell me that I've upset them or done something wrong or slightly missed the mark. I flare up like the 5th of November and I'm wiped out for 2 days, skull pounding with thoughts of why I didn't take the necessary precautions like I always do, how fucking stupid I am for letting this slip through the cracks, and how we mustn't ever let this happen again. I dunk myself in bleach water, swallow washing up liquid, and whack on gloves, a mask and a hazmat suit so you are safe from this filthy little thing, while I wonder why there's this barrier, this block, this distance I can't quite get through, like why I've still got this fucking cough and my chest is on fucking fire. After all I've done, after all I do, why am I my biggest fear? I'm sick of this shit. I need to swear out and cozy up with the germs, because Ma always says starve a fever, feed a cold, and that's the only way to get rid of a cough. Warmth. It's Phlegm. Cool. Thanks, guys.
I need a moment. That was beautiful.
Yeah, no worries. Me too. I haven't breathed.
I will give you a moment. That was beautiful.
Oh, God, not the mic, sorry.
So what I liked about that, it kind of brought up 2 things. One on perfectionism, and the other one is spiritual hygiene. And I hear that a lot sometimes, and it just really makes sense to me. So in regards to like your point of view, if it is you in the poem or just a persona, like is it kind of like this idea of perfectionism being kind of like a petrifying or a paralyzing agent or illness or some sort of infection that we try to kind of like keep to ourselves, and that we don't want to come across as imperfect, but then by that we kind of sterilize the relationships around us with there's like a barrier of some sort, you know? Is that kind of like what you were kind of going for that piece?
Yeah, I was going to say, bang on, so thank you.
I got A in English lit, but
Yeah, I was going to say, I got glad by the review.
You're her personal stenographer.
I'm trying.
Oh my God.
Okay, clicks for me, but yeah, that was
Exactly that.
amazing.
I was going to say, I feel like there are a lot of random tidbits of information I just randomly remember. I'm sure we all do. But one of the things I really liked is that like a lot of the symptoms of a cold, like a runny nose or stuff like that, isn't necessarily the cold itself, it's your body fighting it, if that makes sense. And so how and I think there's so many parallels exactly to your point that you can actually get sick from being too clean and how that's not good for you, and actually having some, what we would deem as imperfection is actually just the thing that makes you stronger, or just makes you you, or just makes you a human, or just allows you to exist. And you're a lot stronger for it. So I guess I'm a big fan of an extended metaphor. I really like them. Yeah. And so when I was writing this, that came to mind, I guess, intellectually, but even in terms of how it felt, I just remember having this moment where it felt like my mind was just compounding of like, we've done this thing that's wrong, and now we're beating ourselves up for being wrong, and why are we beating ourselves up for being wrong, and we shouldn't beat ourselves up for being wrong now, and it just feels like you're getting sick, and it just felt like I was heaving, and it was heavy, and it was horrible. Yeah, and I think also just, writing it like, my parent is, I guess, a Caribbean saying, like, starve a fever, feed a cold. And the idea that actually the only way to get rid of it is to be warm, and is to be nice to yourself, and is to, like, pour into yourself. So, yeah, a lot of parallels. It just kind of fit, but, that's kind of where it came from.
Thank you so much.
That's all right.
Firstly, thank you. That was a really powerful piece.
Of course.
It felt traumatic in parts, you know, where you talk about perfectionism or not wanting to be perfect and being a dirty little, you know, like the context was quite traumatic. I think when you said take a moment, I felt that take a moment for like, I felt pain for you, if that makes sense. And just that empathy of like thinking about children that would think that way, or perfection, you know, like when you go to school and you're told you have to do things a certain way to be good, to get a sticker, to be whatever. Does that make sense? It's like that sticker thing. And I thought, actually, it's really beautiful that you brought it full circle in talking about it the way that you did.
Thank you.
But it felt a bit traumatic in times of that.
No, for sure. I think that's why I think it's so interesting you doing your piece first, because it really made me resonate in terms of like, so much of this is how I feel now, but part of it feels like the like 6-year-old me that felt it, but didn't have the words to articulate it, or didn't really know what was going on, was just kind of feeling it all, and how it just got worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And I guess me writing this and the stage of life I was at was like, I feel like I have to confront this now, which arguably is making it all like flare up and feel disgusting. So yeah, I feel you with that. There is definitely an element of childhood there.
Can I say something?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, like one. No, I got a mic. One thing it's more of a compliment. One thing I love is like the rhythm of it, how it just goes, and it creates like this kind of like hyper obsession at one point until like you create so much tension to basically alleviate, and then that one line is just to sticker perfect, just to break it away from it and then come back into it. I just love the rhythm of it. Yeah, it was really, really, really cool.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I love rhyme as well. I'm obsessed. Things should rhyme more. I don't know why we all got grown up and said we're not going to rhyme anymore. It's very cool. So yeah, anywhere I can get it in, I really appreciate it. But yeah, thank you. Go for it.
Yeah, hearing the rhythm of the piece and almost that kind of relentless momentum of it, I'm curious how much of it came out of maybe free writes or free association writing?
That's a good question. Yeah, I think this one did. So with this, even this whole pamphlet, one of the reasons I wanted to start it was like, I feel like I hadn't written anything for myself in ages and had the like perpetual existential crisis of, am I even a writer? If I don't even write, I need to finish something. So sitting down to do it, I realized my process had changed since the last time I did. And I was like really unnerved by it, because normally, well, not normally, that's loaded. When I was younger, I could sit down and just write a poem like in stanzas and all of that. I just couldn't do that anymore. But I could free write. So it's funny you say. So yeah, this one really came out by free writing, and also in a moment of like heightened emotion. So I think there was in the different iterations of this poem, there was a version of this that was just for me in terms of how it was written. And it hasn't really deferred too much, but like that version was just to like get it all out, and then there was kind of like reshaping it to make it, what was I going to say? Yeah, to make it a bit more cohesive. But oh my God, I feel like that rhythm really came out from the emotion, if anything. I think so.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
For me, the rhythm felt like it was kind of reflecting the frustration of, as you wrote and wrote more, you realized or felt a sense of disappointment in yourself for being so hygienic, that you wish you let yourself go more. You let yourself catch that fever or, let the fever run course. So I felt like with both your pieces, actually, the rhythm of both pieces were reflecting a realization about yourselves. So with yours, the realization that every now and then you, like a 15-year-old self, felt safe and then realized you're not really safe. It's a facade. And then with yours, it was realizing that you'd not lived the way that you're supposed to actually have lived. But yeah, that was just a thought, really, not a question.
Thank you.
No one else got a question?
I always start talking and then somehow I find a question in between. I had a recent reflection very similar to yours, because I do a lot of like page poetry and just freehand writing, and a lot of the times in my head, that's how I'm internalizing the way you just spoke. And usually that's the words I don't normally share on stage, but I know how I'm feeling. I work with children, and so the question is sort of to do with children like younger than us. I've noticed now when I look into my poetry and the things that, I don't say the things I haven't justified through my words, but now my words are justifying me. When I heard your piece, I felt at certain times in our lives, so like we're adults right now, when we do get an opportunity to reflect on that, it opens up us in passages and ways which eventually helps us look at all those different categories which were sort of consuming us at one point, but almost brings a very refreshing perspective of what we want to like channel forward. I want to know what your view is with the work you do and the poetry that you write as well, and this piece in specific, like how when we look at ourselves in this way, it actually helps us sort of restore the humanity in the generation that's following us. So sort of a question, but I roughly think you know what I mean. Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah, is that okay?
Yeah,
Okay,
of
cool.
course. Yeah, it's a good question. I feel like two things come to mind. Let me know if they even answer what you say. Sometimes, like, I used to have a teacher that was like, he was like proper Cockney, the best accent ever. And he was like, look, you're going to have an idea, it's going to be right here. It's going to be right here, you're not going to get it. And your whole job is to like get it here so you can actually get it into focus. And I feel like that's what those experiences are, where like when you're just living it and feeling it, it's right here. And it feels so intimate, you know it so deeply, but you don't know it almost like cerebrally yet. And then I feel like writing a piece like this was almost bringing it here and allowing me to see it in all its rawness and, for lack of a better term, in all its ugliness and all its authenticity and its honesty. And then it's almost like, without trying to sound hella cringe, like the actions off the back of this are almost like the sister poem to it, if that makes sense. Like How I Live My Life is now the follow-up to it, but yeah, it's that pulling it into focus, I think. And then yeah, also what you said about like childhood as well. I think poetry is a really beautiful way to give previous experiences, but especially childhood ones, I think, a voice and allow you to understand them, because I think so much of like growing pains of being an adult is like parenting that child within you while still allowing them to have those experiences and like flitting between those two roles a lot. You know how like when you're having a hard time, you have to like be the one feeling it, but also the one being kind to yourself. So yeah, I feel like that exists within this as well. If that answers your question.
No, it does. Sorry, it does, because I think as I see you as a frame now, and like you're doing the piece in this present moment, it literally realigns everything that I've just been saying, and also it reflects in your piece as well. So yeah, I said it wasn't really a question. I hardly have a question. I just talk sometimes.
Yeah, this is a short piece actually. This I wrote about my 16-year-old self. Like, and context is I moved back down to London when I was 16. I lived around the country. So I moved back down to London, and it was kind of a huge surprise. It was jarring for me because a lot of stuff changed, but it didn't really change, if that makes sense. A lot of stuff just became amplified in a way. So this poem is called 2 B's and 1 White. I still remember the stench of piss, paranoia, and the impending sense of relief in a stairwell underneath the bridge where the trolls once lived. There's a different species congregating at the local watering hole now, and delicate murmurs bounce off the concrete walls, and all that can be heard when the traffic above ceases is 2 B's and 1 White. My grandmother picks out corn-like wraps from her hamster cheeks in exchange for a crinkled £20 note that only a few weeks ago were crisps, used to funnel fancier drugs up the city boy knows is 2 miles east for him in Shoreditch. Fueling the battle for gentrification already lost in my city. 2 B's and 1 White and 1 White and 2 B's. British addicts form an orderly queue, ushering their weight from each foot. Their nails are gnawed but clean, poison sucked dry, fingertips still moist, red fault lines left from raking their arms. Communal hunger, bellies now full. One white and one beat. She flees the scene of the crime to a cave smelling of burned plastic and damp clothes, and when the fog arises, it hurts a little bit less. In the hallway of a halfway house she lived in, a campfire in every room. The smoke creeps from the threshold, from the remnants of dust, rubbing together until it's nothing. 0 bees and 0 whites. The bee stirs from its slumber. Yeah, that's it. We love some deep poetry, don't we? Yeah.
I mean, I know you've given us a poem that's sort of given us a taste of it, but it would be great to sort of hear a bit more about, not just at that moment when you're writing about it, but even what your relationship is now with this city that is incredible and incredibly infuriating at the same time with regards to gentrification. I know it's like the cliched thing, but it's a poem about that, and I'm just curious about like, how has your relationship with London been changing since that time when you came back at 16?
I mean, my relationship with London, where I feel at the time, in hindsight, I feel really blessed that I was able to see the underbelly of London. You know, I saw like the darkness of it in a way, but every single year as like it just evolved to the point that, you know, end up being in like really prestigious places. So it's interesting to see almost the polarization of it, because coming from a working class background, sometimes you only get to see that. You don't necessarily get to see the other side of it. And for the poem, it's more like, actually, because it's more of a documentary. I saw this shit when I was 16, you know what I mean? And it's kind of shedding light onto it, because sometimes it is such a beautiful city, but we just neglect what is the underbelly. Sometimes what is the stuff that gets people surviving, you know, like the drug addicts who basically steal meat and then give, you know, the working class person down the road cheap meat because they're trying to sell it. And same with like Gucci jeans that they basically stole from Oxford Street or Regent Street. You know, this underbelly that we often neglect, you know, because we get to go to like nice venues like this, you know. So that's, for me, is the context of it. And performing it now, I feel great about performing it now, because I feel like it's a bit of gritty realism. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Have you seen that Stephen Frears movie with Chiwetel Ejiofor and Audrey Tautou, Dirty Pretty Things?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, that's a really instructive movie about the other underbelly of the city in British society. But it's from that lens of like, it's, especially I think it's quite an interesting one in this current era, showing, you know, it's the immigrants or the undocumented who are just working and kind of powering society.
What year was it made?
It would have been late 90s or early 2000s. Like nice. This is a while ago. This is like very early Chiwetel Ejiofor before he sort of blew up, I'd say. And this is when I think Stephen Frears was still being funded to be allowed to make movies, because I can't remember the last time he made a movie.
Nah,
he's a legend.
You need to get French funding for that kind of stuff. Yeah, you need to be funded by the French cinema. It's just facts. Like, we don't fund stuff like that anymore. Yeah.
Because I think it was a film for production at the time, back when that was a thing.
Yeah, it's not as much anymore.
This is probably going back before some people were born here.
So that was a deeply melancholy poem.
Oh, yeah.
But not in a bad way. It was reminiscent of the Red Hot Chili Peppers song Under the Bridge.
Oh.
I mean, because for one, you mentioned a bridge and trolls living under them. And then, of course, all of the references to drug use. So I would really say kind of, that, and then the whole By the Way album by the Red Hot Chili Peppers, it was kind of giving me that vibe. I think especially when you look at kind of like you speaking of the underbelly made me think of kind of like cities that have like a certain aesthetic, and then there's the grittiness, which I suppose is like every major city, right? Yeah. Like LA is like sunshine, and then you've got like Anthony Kiedis singing about doing drugs under a bridge. You think of London and like this very classic, and I'm not saying this just because I'm not from here, as you can hear, obviously, but there's a certain aesthetic that I think people associate with London, and then what I'm hearing in your poem is not what I think the average person associates with London. So this.
Richard Curtis movies, poems.
Yeah. But I did want to ask you, I guess some of the references, you kind of made a reference to just needing some more background. If you would be comfortable shedding some light on the, I think it's the B's and the Y's?
The 2 B's and 1 white, because that's the references for drugs, basically. You know, if you're selling brown, basically brown and crack, yeah. So it's like...
What's brown?
Like heroin. So, yeah, and then white is basically crack. So you basically have it in like little wraps and stuff, and then you basically do, instead of saying like, yeah, can I get some heroin, good sir? Like you would turn around and be, oh, can I get some crack as well? Like you just, because it's always a really quick exchange, you know what I mean? It's like, because it's, oh yeah, 2 B's away, okay, cool, boom, 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 and then damn, you do it quickly, and then it's that, and it's, the thing is, it's not even, it's just basic, because it's based around my mum really, because my mum was the dealer, and you get to see that kind of side of it in terms of, you know, consistently and use. It's kind of this weird microcosm, you know what I mean? And then like, yeah, that's the kind of context towards it, yeah.
Thank you, that was really helpful.
No worries.
So this is about kind of like perspective, because when you come from a working class background, you will notice the underbelly. Like it's not something you can miss because you're a part of it, in a way. Whereas, you know, when you see the gentrification, for example, some people see the gentrification and say, okay, that looks better. Whereas some of us will look at it and see what we're losing.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel like that's what we're seeing in the communities that are being gentrified. We're losing the communities. We're losing the perspective and the understanding that we share for people who are either drug users or drug dealers. Because I live in this ghetto in Milton Keynes, and Milton Keynes also has this aesthetic kind of, you know, impression on people. They're like, oh, that's that really pretty Americanized, like you said.
It's very clean as well.
Clean, like, yeah, but it's not. It's dirty as hell, you know. But it made me think, because one day I couldn't leave to go work because 2 families on, you know, in our block, they're in the game, you know, quite deeply. But whilst other people will perceive them as the problem makers and this and that, I see them as families who for generation couldn't make it out for whatever reason. And so we mind our business as you do, you stay in your lane, but you respect that, you know, these children who grow up in these families won't necessarily have a way out. And perceiving the underbelly sometimes in a nice way, like you don't see it as a problem way, the way that those who are responsible for the gentrification say we'll see where we come from. So yeah, it's more like, I don't know what people's perceptions of the underbelly are, but for me, the nitty gritty is where life really sits. It might not be clean, but life thrives there. So that's what I like about your piece. It kind of just made me think of that again. Because I think we can also get caught up in, oh yeah, that does look better. Because I know I've definitely been guilty of thinking that when I've seen gentrification. It's like, oh, now we have this or that. Like you said, that we didn't have access to before necessarily. And I can say, okay, I'm privileged to now even have access to it. And I say to my students, I'm a teacher as well, I say to my students, like, because I teach in a school where the kids live in neighborhoods which we've moved around a lot. I've lived in like almost all of the neighborhoods that they're from. So I know what's going on behind a lot of the closed doors, because I lived either next to children who lived those situations, and they really do believe that there's nothing else out there. They won't have access to that, say, privilege. And I said to them, you know, we came out as refugees and then working class here, and then now I'm middle class technically by the earnings that I get as a teacher, and I'm qualified and all of that. And I said, you can make it through, but the difference is I had people pushing me to get there. Yeah. And so, yeah, and it's just really a comment on perception and perspective, but yeah, I like that piece.
No, I definitely agree with you.
To what you've just said. And then Haroon, I'm going to come to you, and you would just...
I'm sorry, it's just, you've got me thinking, because I'm wondering, I guess you're the poet, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I think that do we, I guess the royal we, believe that poverty and underbelly are synonymous? Because in your poems, there's quite a bit of grit to it. And I wonder if you have, this is not like a writing suggestion or a critique or anything, but I wonder if, and I'm sorry, and I'll give a little bit of background. So there is this poet named Nikki Giovanni, and she passed fairly recently, and she has a poem where she talks about growing up poor, called Nikki Rosa, and there's a line where she talks about even though we were poor, we were quite happy, and she has all of these like childhood memories, but she notes that externally people may have their perception of, oh, they were poor, it must have been miserable, and she wasn't trying to romanticize poverty by any means, but I wonder if you have, I'm not going to ask you if you have like happy memories. This isn't a therapy session, but I'm wondering if you feel like that's always intertwined in your, not just your mind, but also in your writing.
I mean, yeah, no, I have the duality, because you can't, like, it's good to have that as a snapshot, but generally I have other poems where I talk about like running around the estate like a lunatic with my friends and stuff, because I think you have to, like you said, you have to show that, because I think representation is really annoying, and that goes universally, where it is literally the gritty side of it, but not necessarily, like you said, the happiness, because I think when it's bad representation, especially with working class people, it's just like, oh, they can only do this, they can only do that, rather than seeing how they rise and how they basically have this resilience to, the resilience of being happy, and that's an active choice in a weird way. Like there's the smallest moments can be the most happiest moments, you know what I mean? So yeah, I do have a contrast. Yeah.
I was just trying to prepare myself for the rest of the poems.
Yeah. No.
I'm kidding.
Did you have one?
I think I wanted to just add to what Sophia said about gentrification, the change, and being guilty of saying that it's better or whatever. And I think one of the things I always sort of try and push back on when people talk about gentrification, say it's better, is, well, better for whom? Because I think it's so easy to say that and not. Change itself isn't a bad thing. It's just about who gets to share in the spoils and who gets pushed out or doesn't get pushed out. And I think adding to what you were saying about, working class grit and happiness, it's interesting because I don't know if you've seen, again, we're both sort of fellow film buffs, but Stephen Graham was talking about the fact that basically when you see working class families in telly, they're just miserable. Yeah. That sort of representation is bad. And it's the same thing with, again, we share a common thread on Gary Stevenson, the ex-Citibank trader and economist, who basically says that he's working class. He sounds still like a geezer from Ilford, but he's one of the smartest economists on the planet. But because of his accent, he doesn't get a lot of BBC spots because no one, it's jarring for the average person to hear, someone who isn't Oxbridge PPE actually school other people in economics. I mean, I think if it did that would probably start causing disruptions that the system doesn't want to see anyway.
So I'm going to do like a couple of like two shorter poems, and one thing I tend to do as a writing exercise for me, like normally I don't do free writes, but I do when I'm on a bus or on a tube, and I'm very voyeuristic where I just start writing about someone who's next to me or the situation that happens. This is one of the poems. It's just titled number 6 because there's a few of them. A dank smell chloroforms me from behind, seeping into perilous peril. Did I step into dog shit without realizing? A woman walks towards the front of the bus, head bowed by the weight of shame, and her concealed weapon is used to take a seat. Coy eyes darting around the scene of the crime and then to me. It's a deer in the headlight moment. She knows that I know. I know that she knows that I know that she knows. As the smell creeps up my nostrils, the bus jerks to a halt. One beat later and another woman jumps onto the bus and slows her walk as she enters the mustard gas. Horror slides across her face, confused, head rocking, searching for the culprit. She catches my gaze. She thinks it's me. Oh, the fucking humanity. Yeah, that's it.
So this poem is called Romeo, and it's about a crazy ass fucking heartbreak. We're just gonna get into it.
Thank you for warning us.
I literally, when I was picking the order, I was like, what's gonna be the lightest poem to end on? And somehow this was it. But we literally, I was like, we move. Okay, Romeo. I was under the impression that you were fictional. Enter Romeo. You're 6'3" with a mini afro and a Houston accent that walks over to me at that bar, between the melodies of West London poetry, to ask me who I am and what I like to do, with a finger on your lip that says I will be thinking of your answer and you long after this moment is over. You're an actor and I'm a writer. Two minds both alike in dignity. You think we'd recognize the start of a tragedy when we see one. But we were too busy having fun. No, at first, see, you're kind of weird. You don't ask me my favorite colors and the music I like to hear. You asked me what the biggest thing I learned about myself was this year, and how it feels to be a daughter whose father poured into them so much. I think about how formal you are, walking me to my car and asking to see me again. We do. We get shit Soho tacos where you give me a rose, and then again, we dance to Music Soul Child in my hometown, and maybe your body doesn't feel so weird next to mine after all, because when you say goodbye and hug me so tight, you lift me ever so slightly in the air, and I think maybe, just maybe, you can carry me. I fell in love with you in 4 dates. Yes, I know, 4 dates. Yes, I know, 4 dates. Not that I realised until later on. All I knew is that at that open-air theatre, the summer evening chill was just an excuse to get closer to you. And I couldn't help but think that the fairy lights dusting the trees on the way out were lit just for me, to give the feeling in my stomach some company as we skip through central London, eating ice cream, taking pics, and you say, "My gosh, Marley, you're a light." We turn 12 hours into 10 minutes. As the sun rises, it dawns on me that you might be it. Forehead to forehead, thumbs gently rub my jaw. The taste of first kiss sits hot on both our lips. Exit home on the 5:05 a.m. tube. The second I get in, I look in the mirror and laugh 2 words through a fat-ass grin. You're fucked. And I was right. How could I not be? When you read me Shakespeare by candlelight to dry my tears. When you pull me onto your lap and melt into my chest and tell me there's something here and I feel it too and we just have to be brave enough to follow this through. When you offer to hold my bags and my dreams for safekeeping. When you spot the places I hide myself and ask to peek behind. When you pray over me at grace and watching you fast makes me want to get closer to God. When you tell me I can be soft around you, and I do. I love every part of this rehearsal. I love learning its lines and its cues, waiting for the full run-through when the curtains lift and we debut this art we've made behind the scenes. You too, right? You say the final year of school is calling you. You say you don't want to give me the scraps of you, and you don't know if this can work yet. And no one told me that feeling it isn't the same as wanting it, so I still pursue. Because why did this man have to be perfect when he was everything that perfection wishes it was, present and real and within arm's reach? And I cannot believe something as beautiful as you is happening to me. You're staying with me now 3 days a week. The conversations go as deep as the water I'm in. What are we? Maybe 2 more weeks before this is a real thing, before you're mine and I'm yours and we're locked in, except no. That doesn't happen. Tragedy erupts and your home is struck by an endless sleep come far too soon, and this thing between us has rightfully shrunk to the collateral of a much greater loss. I sit with you the night you first get the news and hear you break from the inside out and commit myself to becoming glue. You've flown home and I've lost the plot because now I love you like a plane ticket, like fuck my job. Like never looking back because you are what I look forward to. But here I am having to leave you behind. Forget it all the second that I'm off book. Because trust me, I tried. Begged you to come back to the script. Made my part smaller and smaller so I could fit. I am done screaming at the sky for making us star-crossed. I will make like Shakespeare instead and immortalize us. I will not let this stay in drafts. I will write us so damn well we are kept alive in library books and school literature exams, reruns, collaborations, and Leonardo DiCaprio, giving us another chance to run this from the top. I'll turn a love I had to let go into a story people can't wait to pick up. And they will listen, and they will love it as I try to forget that I never really was your Juliet. Yeah.
For both of you guys, I really feel like you guys are like yin and yang to me because...
Very.
I see it.
Great curation skills, by the way.
We were just saying. We were literally just saying.
You know what I mean? I'm a creative. Don't gas me up too much, man. I'm trying to work on having a small ego.
So I've got things to plan to say to you in the morning tomorrow.
So what I really loved is so the reason why I like haikus, like you got shrenrus and haikus, and shrenrus are more kind of like outward facing, and I feel like that's what George is, and then Marley, you kind of got those like inward facing like poems, but you both paint and describe vivid pictures. They're like, I don't know if vignettes is the right word, but like George seems all like detailed and cinematic. You create this like universe, and Marley, you got this microcosm of like tender feelings that I really love in love poetry, and I've heard you do this in you read this at a crossword, which is when you read it, I was like, I got to have you on Scratch That, because I think Ruth was there as well. I was like, yeah, I need to have her on Scratch That. So yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for those two, but those two pieces. But in regards to like both your approaches to writing poetry, is that something you do on purpose, or is that just something you just naturally kind of what's that word?
Gifted.
Is something that you kind of like, naturally kind of like your approach to it. I mean, yeah.
Do you want to go?
What, my approach to it, or like?
Yeah, just like, is that something you consciously do, or is that just something you just kind of do automatically?
It depends, innit? Because it depends on like, because I feel like you can write from two different perspectives. You can write from like the emotional perspective of something being live in the moment, or like you can basically work something out, you know, like we'll basically do a free write and see what is there. Because there's sometimes when things are there and it's heavy and you want to write about it, or there's other times you just want to write about silly shit, you know what I mean? But there's not that much thought process towards the two. So that's the way I approach writing, especially like with my tubes of observation. It's just like a free write where I'm just like, what actually happened? If something happens and I'm like, all right, cool, that's funny, yeah, cool, like, or if I'm trying to structure something and then have it more of a story, then it's different, you know. It really depends on what I want to bring to the surface in the moment of what I'm feeling. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of similar, to be fair. I feel like poetry has always been a tool for me. It's probably the first form of writing I found. Actually, tell a lie, it's probably letter writing first, and then found poetry.
Yeah.
If you write a letter in form of poem,
that's it. But yeah, so I think for that, it's always been a tool for like self-expression and processing things. I've always had a very introspective relationship with it. So, because I write fiction as well, fiction feels very outrospective. What is that? Yeah. I wasn't sure that was a word. Okay, good. It feels very like outrospective, whereas the relationship I have with poetry feels very introspective. So, yeah, it probably comes from that. At the same time, especially right now, like, because it's so introspective and like you're trying for it to capture this truth or this moment or turn this moment into a piece of art, I find I put a lot of pressure on myself. So one of the things I really enjoy is like getting myself out of that headspace. Yeah, and doing, like you say, more poetry for fun, or more observational poetry, or poetry that doesn't feel like it has to like do justice to my soul, because that can just feel like a lot of pressure. Like, let's like write one about like a fire alarm. Like, let's just do that and remember that it can be about that too. So yeah. Can
I ask a question in terms of like, so you say you do obviously like poetry, but also fiction writing. What kind of fiction writing do you tend to do?
I like to do short stories or longer stories.
Is it more
stories.
Like like novel format?
Yeah, like novel format, exactly that. So like prose vibes. So I really enjoy that, and I think for me that's more where like social commentary comes out a lot more.
Yeah.
So it's like completely the other end of the spectrum, I would say. I find it really hard to do social commentary in poetry unless it's like my own.
I totally agree, because I do more like screenwriting and stuff. So for me, it's like I find it's nicer where like what you talked about earlier in terms of like, because like you said, there is the introspection, but being able to build characters to create something.
Yes.
You know, where it's just like I want to create conflict between two different characters, but what that conflict is saying is based on a societal thing that I'm trying to create a universe in order to have a further message down the line. And it's, I don't know, I prefer creating that universe of it.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That is really cool. And I think that's cool because it's like you can start from somewhere that feels so true and so personal and so intimate, but as you start to let it evolve, it kind of becomes something bigger. It turns into itself. And they really, I know, so people say it all the time, but I feel like pieces really do have a life of their own. It feels like horse riding to me. Like you are very much the rider and not the horse. Like you're just So yeah, I hear that majorly.
Especially like characters becoming their own as well, because because the characters I create, they end up being their own people. I know everything about them. You know.
I love that.
That's how it's supposed to be, I'd say.
Yeah, no, because they have to exist to make it real. You know. And I think that having that contrast is really nice from, I don't know whether you agree with it, just having that contrast, being able to do poetry as well as create a different universe outside of it. Yeah.
So true. I think it keeps your mind broad, I feel. Because I've been writing this for so long now, and now I'm like, every poem has to have a piece of like what I cried about last night, and no, it doesn't. Like it just all of the angst and like letting it be something else. Just taking the pressure off, and also reminding yourself that you're multifaceted as well. Yeah. Like I think you can feel like you can only do one type of creativity or one type of writing. Allowing yourself to kind of have that freedom and giving yourself permission for that, I think is really cool too.
No, I definitely agree. Yeah.
I love the imagery that both of you used in your poems. One on a bus and the human element and the woman, and it was really like, I won't say the word humanity, but it was powerful to end on something like that. And then with yours, I think you both took us on a journey on the bus and then in love. And to have that relatability to the characters as well, it is really good storytelling through poetry, which was beautifully done by both of you. And I think it just shows like how you can use it in poetry to strengthen what you're trying to say and building those characters. Because as much as at one point I was like, oh God, he's gonna, and then you brought it back to that element of giving him empathy and compassion in that moment before he had to leave. Do you see what I mean? And that's powerful to be able to do that. So you can resonate with both characters within the context of that actual poem. So that was was that what you wanted to do when you were creating it?
I was like, you were meant to hate it. No, you weren't
sorry. No, did you mean to create that balance? Because it felt like balance in it.
I think that's a really good question. Probably not.
Okay.
But I'm glad it's there. because I
was with you all up till that point, and then I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. But a plane ticket, I got that, like you wanted to leave. But that was empathy and compassion for Romeo in that moment.
I think I wanted there to be, and I actually have a follow-up question for you off the back of this, but I think I wanted it to be my own personal experience, but I realized the thing that makes it what it is was how layered and complex that was, and I think it would be doing a disservice to it to like not have some of that there. So I don't think it was necessarily conscious, but I feel like his experience was part of my experience there of like, I can't believe this isn't happening, but also like, this is so fair enough, but also like, it's just so layered. And also to be fair, like, I think the way this poem especially is structured, like the title is the dude. Do you know what I mean? Like it's just as much his story or my citing of his story as well as it is my own. And I think we both get to be characters in that. Because even what we were saying earlier, like I've had to try so hard to not implement the perspective I have on it now in this poem and let it be this person who was like going through it fresh, like a week out of it all kicking off, and let that exist and leave it there. So yeah, I also feel like I have a firm belief you can't lie in poetry. And even when you try to lie, it will come out. You will tell the truth in ways you don't even realize you're telling the truth. So I think the empathy you've probably picked up on there, even if I might not have consciously put it in there, or even it's not that I tried to censor myself, it's probably a truth that really was there, that just kind of came out in terms of how I was feeling it.
It was beautiful. There was a deep connection there. And I felt like you could almost feel like you in that situation, being in love, like all the feelings that you were going through and the emotions that came with it. It was beautiful. Really beautiful. Yeah, and actually your experience with the lady as well. Yeah, you could really... It was almost like you just wanted to be on the bus. Yeah, that was it. Like, leave me alone.
I didn't want to get involved in this shit. Like, literally, like it's just that kind of thing, and you can, I don't know, it just thought it was, because it actually happened, and it was just so funny, because it's just like, in that moment, it's just like, the fucking anxiety you feel, where it's just like, no, it's not me. It's just like, I can't protest, because otherwise it just seems really bad as well, and it's just like, I feel like,
but you could really feel it when you were describing it, which was really beautiful.
Yeah, because I think
this is the confession.
That's part 2.
Oh, okay.
No, it's not. Conversation with my therapist, just I like it.
No, thank you.
Oh, I had a question. If that's cool. Yeah, the question I had, because I feel like it's something I've seen, especially in your first piece, but throughout all of it. What is your relationship with writing from a real life experience? Because, for example, if we're writing about like that leaf, we know that it's going to kind of have a life of its own on the page. It's going to become its own story. How do you negotiate that feeling of almost wanting writing from something true, but then also letting it evolve into like art, if that makes sense?
Ooh,
does that make sense? Because I feel like sometimes when it's so personal, and that's why I think it's relevant to what we've both shared today, it's so personal you almost want to document.
Yeah.
But there is that element of like letting it become the piece it wants to be, and sometimes that I don't know if that's making sense,
It's just like sometimes it's making it less of a documentary and more of a poem.
Yeah, exactly that.
And I think part of it is like kind of having repeat motifs, and then because the thing is you can be really literal over stuff, you know, like with like Two Bees and One White, which is there's metaphors within that, you know, and then extended metaphors from fairy tales of stories. So that evolved from there, where it's just like, because the first couple of drafts of that was just like a lot more detail orientated, where it was a matter of fact rather than just being like it just turns, you know, then it turns into that, and then you've got campfires, and then it's not even, you know, then the imagery just basically evolves from there, because I feel that's the crucial thing of doing rewrites all the bloody time. I think you can't, the first time you write something, it's not going to be the best fucking thing you're going to do, and it's allowing yourself to become more immersed into the experience of it, so it can actually adapt and change, so it's almost going over it again and like with a fine comb and be like, actually no, that's not it. And just like even it out a little bit, but yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. Oh, I've got another tube story. So where was I heading? I was in Whitehall, and I was going across the, like, this is short, but it's just so ridiculous.
What are you doing in Whitehall?
I wasn't protesting or plotting any bombs. I know we've had revolutionary talks before, so we're good.
I wasn't the one bringing those things to light. You're the one who's now starting. So.
I'm reading your mind, mate. Trust me.
I've exercised so much restraint today.
Where is it? So basically, the more of the story, don't sit next to me on the tube or on the bus. I will fucking write about you. Like, the guy next to me is a kinky Tory and a civil servant.
Okay, wait, no, sorry, that, reload that. I wasn't ready.
It's not an open mic, so.
I don't care.
Reload it. The guy next to me is a kinky Tory and a civil servant. He switches between the Telegraph app and a sex worker one. He's torn between a BBL and a Latina. Both in their 40s. Age appropriate. I like this guy. He switches back to the Telegraph, scouts the area for praying eyes, and I avert my gaze. He reads a couple of lines, switches back, and now the Telegraph app is removed, and a new one enters the fray. Reclaiming these loyalty bonuses for one night only. He went with a BBL. Good choice, my friend. Good choice.
Dead. That was so good.
Take a restraining order.
Yeah, but it's true story. I had to like double look, because you know you don't mean to look at people's phones and stuff, and like, because I tried to just be in the world, and I was just like, is that what I fucking...
And that was it.
Literally. Because the thing is, he went from the BBL and then like flicked to his Telegraph. Like, he had techers, you know what I mean, to go between the two apps.
He's used to swiping left and right.
Oh no, because he went from Telegraph, like he had the Telegraph app up, and then switched it and went back to the next app, and then back to the Telegraph, so it stops him from people noticing what he's doing.
Yeah, this is not his first rodeo.
It's not. I was so impressed by it, because he went, like, it was just like, you know, this guy was a gamer growing up, definitely, and yeah, like, it was just funny, because I was just like, because I didn't even know there was an app for this shit. And the fact that it was also age appropriate, because this guy was in his 40s, and normally you have the assumption for a guy in his 40s to go for someone a lot more younger. So you kind of paint a picture of, you know, and that's me. I like writing scripts and stuff, so I liked observing people to write stories and stuff. But then when it just happens on a page, or just happens in front of you, it's just funny, man. It's just
definitely there's a short film in this.
Oh yeah.
Did you ever feel like you should tap him on the shoulder, like over there.
I was so close. I was so close. I was just like, no, because the thing is, you could tell with his energy, you know, some people will receive that in a way or not way. Because if he was like this, like, you know what? But he was like this, so his body language is very like closed up in a way. So, yeah.
You clearly didn't have, you know, like you've got those screens. You can only see that. Do you know
Oh,
what
the
I'm talking
private,
about? You
yeah.
cannot see 45 degrees to that side. You didn't have one.
Damn,
He could have benefited from that.
I should have gave him that tip actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She said, you know, Amazon's a real thing.
Yeah.
But
Just-
the thing with that, I'm sorry.
Wow.
I literally just ordered some on Amazon. They're so sad on the table. Because it's like it's a bitch to put them on. Like it's very annoying. But that's also like a red flag.
Yeah.
Right? Like no. Because think about like if your partner has that, it's like, well, what are you hiding on your screen? In the same way that I'm sorry, and I hope no one takes offense here, but like when you're messaging someone just in general and they have the like disappearing messages on, where it's like every message on WhatsApp disappears in 7 days. I'm like, what are you talking about? That you like a week from now you don't want to record it. Like, yeah, certain things are kind of red flaggy. Like, oh, you're secretive.
But I think there's a lot of nosy people in the world. So
That's true. If someone sees
we can all
me,
be nosy.
if someone sees me on my Bible app, I'm like, yeah, get the word. Someone sees me on field, I'm also like, what you think? Should I write
might
back?
actually
Should I
bypass
reply
the need
back?
for, you might bypass the need for field to be like, well, actually, if that's what you're looking for, hi.
Exactly.
But I feel like I am the advert of getting them screens. Yeah, this whole story is the advert to get them screens. Yeah.
I think you should contact. I'll get you the...
Yeah. I just need an agent.
You should have
yeah.
a screen with guys like me that'll write poems.
It would be such a good advert. Yeah.
You did say, disclaimer, don't sit next to me on the tube or the bus.
I did.
Yeah.
You did say that.
Yeah.
The interview chair scratching, that count.
What you say again?
And I said, don't sit next to you on the tube or the bus, but what about the chair here?
I have my phone.
I couldn't read that handwriting even. No, I'm joking.
You gotta think smarter. That's so true though.
Yeah.
That's so funny
I
though.
always thought it would be quite funny to make a poem out of, you know, I don't know if the Metro still has it, but you know, like when you see like a love interest on the train or the bus and like
Lost connection.
Yeah, that's so true.
Metro, they still do it.
Because I would love to read a poem out as a Metro connection, like to the lady on the bus stop or to the guy.
Bro, you should start this as a business.
Listen,
Yeah.
we need to do something about that one. Yeah.
You should start this as a business. You should get people to message you with their lost connections, and you write a poem. You do it, and you just like, oh, what does she look like? And then just go down.
One pound.
No joke.
Buy a can of Coke for a pound.
Once I tried to wear very similar outfits for the whole 5-6 days on the train, and I'm sure one of this will get the story out. I'm sure someone's looking, but now, man, we need to get something sorted. No one's writing about, all of that. I'm like, what do you mean you're looking and no one's really messaging? I'm like, say no more. But yeah, we should do that.
That'd be so fun.
Yeah, for sure. Okay.
Can I add one? I wanted to add a point. It's in my head. Do you know when I heard your last two pieces, I was thinking of the role of balance when we write from an observational point of view, and when it's not about us, but it's about everything but us, but it's coming from us. Open question. How does that help your poetry and you as a creative when you are able to get out of your own space for yourself, but provide that space for someone else? And look, for example, it can be comical and it's a release. But these are my words, but how do you feel when you write outside of your own show about everything other than yourself?
I find it harder when it's people in poetry, and I think that might be my relationship to it. I find it so much harder because I feel like whenever I've written about people, it's always still through like my lens of them or my experience of them. Because I guess it's like, even when you're not bringing it up, it is like writer's gaze. Like there is still that narrator, there is still that person that this is what I took or this is what I assumed from what you did. So I find it really tricky. I think objects or things that are lifeless feel easy. But yeah, things with a personality. And I think part of that is like, because for me anyway, poetry feels so introspective, I know I'm never going to capture that introspection for you. So I guess it changes my relationship with what I'm aiming to do with talking about someone else. But how do you feel?
I thought the opposite. I love writing about people, obviously. So no, because literally, because I'm curious about people generally, and like as someone who is a filmmaker and works on documentaries and stuff, my job is to basically bring out that person, you know, make them feel comfortable. And even when it comes down to like, because even some new poems which I'm writing, which is telling other people's stories, which are real stories that I know, I love being in that mindset, you know, just to tell the descriptions of it, you know, in terms of what they were feeling. Maybe they were feeling that or not, but I'm close to it, so I can kind of assume it. But if you weren't close to it and you only assume it, then it's kind of, then I feel like that's a grey area in a way where you're just trying to implement something. But the stuff that I'm writing now, which is about other people, which are close to me, my family and stuff, I love it because it's funny, it's interesting, and I know their characteristics. But bringing that into like poetic form, it's been like a really nice, I don't know, it's been fun. It's been really fun to try to do that. But yeah. That's cool. Yeah, and I'm voyeuristic as well, so yeah.
So they can sit with you, but not sit next to you.
Yeah. Literally, I like that. Sit with me, but not sit next to me.
Put on an airplane mode around you, bro.
I still have the 45-degree angle in my head, and now I keep looking at these two cameras, and I'm like, one's capturing everything that George was saying in his piece, and then that's George on the side, and he's not reaching out to help the other brother out, like, you know. Go that way. Yeah, don't stop me. Yeah, don't stop me. This is my observation. But thanks for the answer. Thank you.
Do you guys ever write, actually just kind of bouncing off of yours, but write about people close to you because you see an element of you in that person? So you felt like I can write about me and them. I don't know.
That's a good question. I actually have why does this feel like a self-promo? But another poem in this pamphlet is one about my family. And it is all about them, but also technically about me. So it, like, how it's structured is like my mother's daughter, my father's daughter, my brother's sister, and it's all about kind of like their behaviors, but how they influence my relationship and stuff like that. So again, it probably goes back to like, I feel like maybe it's a permission thing. I feel like I have permission to do it when it's through my own lens. But yeah, I enjoy knowing that it's like my perspective of them and it won't necessarily be them. Mainly because for me, again, my relationship with poetry feels like so related in truth, whereas like it doesn't feel the same in fiction. That's not saying it's hard or fast rule about that at all, just in terms of how I feel about it. But
yeah, I think I explained it before, where it's just like I feel like I can, because I think as long as you approach it through empathy, that's the most important part.
Yeah.
Like you can't. Like even people, you say like people you love or people that you don't really like, you still have to have empathy towards that in order to create a real person. Because then it's just you going through a lens, which is maybe because I like writing fiction as well, but it's also with like something too where I'm writing stuff about my family. Like I have to approach them as a complicated person, you know, because we know them very well. We know their history. We know exactly everything they've gone through because we share that amongst each other. And I think empathy is the most important part of it, really. Like, yeah. Yeah.
Also, I think in both of your pieces, it echoes the need to speak. So even if it's your perspective on it and it's a part's perspective, at the end of the day, that in itself is a channel that you need to let out. And that like adds so many holistic values to the fact that you yourself neutrally feel that you can speak up about this or not, and then you look at that element of it. And I like the way you both are. You said yin and yang, and I'm seeing both sides of that right now, and I'm finding it very appreciative as you said it. Yeah.
Well, we've got to thank Meta for that.
Yeah, thanks, Meta, for that. No one had the words for it, but you said it. Yeah, go on.